Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome back to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge. My name is Howard Pinsky, Senior XD Evangelist here at Adobe, and I hope you're all doing well on this Monday afternoon. If you are tuning in live, let me know in the chat who you are and where you're tuning in from. We've got Raphael and Anurazi. If I mispronounced your name, I do apologize. We've got Annie and Chris and John and Santanji and Sam, Agnes, Christina, Pranav, Cindy, Cornell, Julia. Welcome everyone. Great to see all of you for another round of XD Daily Challenges. This time it's a little bit different for two reasons. One, it's only a week this time. We have this week and then we're taking off next week for the July 4th week, so we won't be here. No streams that week. And then number two, we just released a pretty big update just a few days ago. I think on the 16th. I don't know what date it is. I can't keep track of days anymore. But we released that update. Hey Alice, welcome. By the way, if you need some doodle therapy in your life, stick around right after this stream. Alice is coming up. Always a great stream. Fantastic illustrator. Go check her stream out. It's going to be a good time. And then the second reason, back to that, is we released a new update, and this week we're focusing all on the new features, including stacks, scroll groups. We might even talk about design tokens as well. We've got Tanya from Texas and Caroline from Scotland. Hey Caitlin, welcome. Great to see everyone. I love seeing people all over the world. Great to see all of you. All right, let's hop over to my screen. If you're brand new to the Adobe XD Daily Creative Challenge, here's the rundown. Usually, day number one, we do a bit of an intro stream where we talk about the challenge in depth, and we also go over some basic tips and tricks in Adobe XD. But because this is a one-week challenge, we're diving straight into things. So head on over to behance.net/challenge/XD. One of the mods will post the link in the chat in just a second. If you haven't hit the big blue register button at the top yet, definitely press the button at the top so you're notified when new challenges come out. Now, usually it is just 9 challenges. Let me go ahead and turn on Do Not Disturb so I don't get distracted by notifications. There we go. Yeah, so usually it's 9 challenges, but again, because we're taking off next week, it's just 5 this time. So how does it work? That's a good question. Well, every single day you're going to receive a challenge, Monday to Friday. You can join us in our Discord community chat. I don't think I have that open right now, but someone will post a link in the chat for Discord. We have almost 50,000 designers in Discord. That is a lot of people, and all of you are amazing. You can join us on our live streams every single day around 2 o'clock Pacific time. You will be able to join me live Monday to Friday, and then in 2 weeks when a new challenge starts, it'll be a new host. Finally, you can share your work on either Discord in the current challenge channel, or you can go to Behance and share your work there as well using the keyword XD Daily Challenge. So again, we're diving straight into things today. We're going to start with scrollable galleries using one of the new features in Adobe XD 30, scroll groups. And our prompt is to design a mobile experience that contains scrollable galleries of cards. Expand upon your design with links to additional artboards. Now, that's one of the cool things about scroll groups is you can have a gallery of, I don't know, dozens of cards going off your artboard you can scroll through, but you can also link those up either with components and states or simple transitions to other artboards. So here we go. Make sure to grab that starter file right here, and if you're watching this after the live stream, you can rewatch the video right here. All right, hopping over to Adobe XD, boop, there we go. Here is the template that you're going to be using, and these templates, I did some customizations, but the majority of the template was all done by our good friend and host, Andrea Hawk. She put together this amazing template. I mean, honestly, all I did was just change the information at the top. I didn't really do anything. She did all this hard work, and she put together this really cool component down here with resources built into various states. I don't know how she thinks of these creative things, but Andrea is brilliant. If you're watching, Andrea, thank you for this amazing template that we've been stealing from you. You can go follow her there on Twitter and various other platforms. And here is the artboard we're going to be working on today. Turn off my guides, and if you want some inspiration, we've got these great looking colorful images at the top here, and you can kind of see what we're getting at, right? Scrollable galleries going left and right. We may even explore horizontal, vertical, and in both directions. Maybe we'll save both directions for tomorrow. That might be a little hint at what we're going to be dealing with tomorrow. All right, so diving into things, let's go ahead and begin. We are going to be creating and designing an application all about ice cream. So it's gonna be delicious, it's gonna make all of you hungry, and let's begin with a rectangle, because that's what we do everything. We start with a rectangle. Grab a rectangle and draw one out. So I'm gonna drag one out across the entire artboard, and you're probably asking, why are you doing that? If we have an artboard already, why are you dragging a rectangle across the entire thing? And that's because I wanna use this to house an image for the background, because we're gonna have a little bit of the background popping out from the back. So if I hop over to Finder here, there's Finder. I've got some amazing looking images of ice cream that I grabbed from Adobe stock, including this one here, which I thought is incredibly creative, bright, and it's really gonna catch people's attention. So I can just drag this directly into this shape here, and if I wanted to, I can always, adjust the shape just like that, or I can double click and access the mask and make changes like that. Now I'll probably leave it around here, and the reason I'm doing that is because we're gonna have a container over top of this particular background image. So I'm gonna grab another rectangle, as we all do, and I'm going to just maybe somewhere right about here, drag one down to about here. Now, I'm leaving a little bit of room at the bottom. If we have time, we'll get to an experience where maybe it shows the cart, how many ice creams are in there, maybe there's a button to check out, that sort of thing. Yeah, put some ice cream, like Christina's doing, put some ice cream emojis in the chat, just to make all of us even more hungry. Maybe for this one, maybe I'll just add a little bit of blue, just a touch of blue, just to kind of pull in some of the blue from the background. We probably don't want to go too crazy with it. You don't want to do this. It gets a bit muddy, it blends a little bit, and it makes adding content on this container a little bit difficult. So it's gonna have a little bit of blue. And for this corner here, I might want a nice rounded corner, just like this. I don't know, maybe 66 pixels, something like that. And I'm holding down my Alt key on Windows, Option key on the Mac, and just dragging individual corners like that. And this one will be, 32 pixels, looks pretty good. All right, so we've got a little bit of a container, and now inside of this, we want to start adding some content to kick off what exactly a user is going to be doing. So maybe we'll just grab a text layer and just type, whoa, that is large, but that's okay, because we can always make it smaller just by grabbing this handle and dragging it down just like that. And you have to make the sound effects, right? You have to, it's the law. So I've got a text layer. Obviously the white text layer is a little bit difficult to see on the whitish background. So I'm gonna simply press the I key on my keyboard, and maybe I'll sample this color here in the ice cream, just to kind of, that one. Oh yeah, that looks pretty good. Now, maybe to get a little bit, Cornell says, I eat my ice cream already. You didn't share with us, that's not nice. Maybe to get a little bit fancy with this text layer, I've got pop-ins automatically selected, which I believe was used in the template, but maybe we'll go for Dunbar Low. If you've been watching some of my streams, you've probably seen me pull out the Dunbar typeface for headers. I think it's a really nice looking typeface, and I'll make sure to left justify it. I'll pop it right about there. Yeah, Wendy, sound effects are essential. So we've got our ice cream header just about there, and we may want to start by creating some cards that will house the images, house some information on what is contained or what you can buy in this ice cream shop. Musab is saying, ordering an ice cream for myself at 2 a.m. That is goals right there, Musab. I need to get some ice cream, especially at 2. You know what? I'm asleep by 10, so maybe that's not going to work. Let's go ahead and drag out a card just like this using the rectangle. Bam, just like that. And I'm going to round out the corners a little bit. I don't know how round. Let's see. What do we got? 16 pixels looks pretty good if we're going for that 16 pixel grid. Fancy. So we've got a white border or a white container, and I'm going to duplicate this, Command and Control D, and I'm simply going to move this one up. Now you can't see it because it is clashing with that card in the background. I'll just change it to something else just for now. This will be the placeholder for the image that we're going to add in just a second. So we've got that looking pretty good. And we may want some additional text in here to, tell users what the ice cream is called, maybe some additional information, and of course we'll want the price of the ice cream. So this one, I'll just item name. Now this one here, I can probably get away with using the Dunbar Low typeface because it's large enough that it might work, but I'm going to change the color to somewhat of a blackish color, just like that. And medium looks pretty good. Now I'm going to duplicate this downwards, and this is going to be secondary information. It might be maybe what kind of ice cream it is. Is it a bowl? Is it a cone? Or whatever it might be. So I'll just type cone for now. Now, because it's secondary, there are a few things I might want to do. One, I might want to drop the size a touch, just like that. I may also want to drop the opacity a little bit. You don't want to go too crazy, because if you do something like this, it's going to be weird for accessibility. Even something like 75% is kind of pushing it, but I'm going to leave it about that. And I'm also going to change the typeface to Sophia Pro, which complements the header quite nicely, and it's not too overdone that it kind of gets lost, and especially when you're shrinking that down. So that looks pretty good. Maybe I'll drop the opacity just a little bit more, maybe to 50. I'll probably have to increase that, but we're going to be using a repeat grid, so we can easily do that. And you can also experiment, maybe instead of medium, maybe regular, just again to kind of push the idea that this is secondary information. All right, so we've got that looking pretty good, and now we might want a button to add it to the card to show the price, something like that. So I'm going to grab my rectangle. And I do encourage you, as you're designing this, if you don't like ice cream, one, what's wrong with you? Second of all, you do whatever you want. You can do a card about Animal Crossing or Pokemon or whatever it might be, right? Have fun with it. So I've got this little button here. Maybe I'll just bring in this pink. I can also add that to my assets panel to make my life a little bit easier. And inside of this, we may want to display the price. So I'm gonna just type out, let's say, I don't know, $4.99. Is that what ice cream costs these days? I haven't bought an ice cream in a while. I'm gonna change this to white, and I might bump this up to bold since this is a call to action. And someone's asking, where did you get your images? I did get them from Adobe Stock. And if you don't have a subscription to Adobe Stock or credits, Unsplash is another fantastic resource. Now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to pop both of these layers into a group. So I've got both of them selected just like that. Command or Control G, or you can right click and group it just like that. You can also turn it into a component if you're going to be using it later on. And you know what? Maybe we'll do that. Maybe we'll turn it into a component, Command or Control K. And you'll notice that it's now in the assets panel. I can just call this button just like this. Hey, Anna, welcome. All right. Now that it's a component, you can also do it on a group. You can enable padding over here within the properties inspector, and that will look at the relationship between the topmost layers and the background layer and automatically add padding. And you can go ahead, if you wanted to, adjust it just like this. Maybe you want 8 pixels on the side, right? And you can just do that very simply. But one of the cooler benefits is if I dive in here to the text layer, let me go ahead and right justify it or right align it, and I decide to make some changes, right? Whatever it might be. It automatically resizes, which is really nice. So I'm going to pop that. Maybe I'll get a little bit fancy with this. I'll pop it on the side here. I'm going to adjust the padding just a little bit because it is a strange text layer. And it's got that $sign, which is kind of pushing things up a little bit. And I'll pop this right about there. That looks pretty good. Maybe I'll just make a few tweaks to this. Select all that. Move this up a touch. There we go. All right. So our card is looking pretty good, but of course we may want a few cards going across our artboard. So what we're going to do is I'm going to select all this information except the background layer and except that one there. So I've got only the card layer selected. You can also do the same thing within your layers panel over to the left. And since we want many cards going across our artboard, we're going to hit the repeat grid button right here at the top. And just like making sound effects, it's by law, you have to say boop when you press a repeat grid, right? Do I have my boop button fixed? Let's see if that works. Aha, I fixed my boop button this time. Very important thing to have as a streamer, a boop button. All right, so we've got our card looking pretty good. And now we can just go ahead and drag out a few additional cards across our artboard, right? And now, because it's a repeat grid, if we want content in there, there's a few things we can do. We can either dive in here, double click on text layers and make changes. I would love for the chat to post ice cream names inside of the chat so I can kind of bring some of those in and update this repeat grid. But for images, you can do this for text layers as well, but I'm going to rely on the chat today. I'm going to hop over to Finder, and I've got these great images here, and let's go ahead and select a few of these. We got 4. How many? 1, 2, 3, 4. There we go, perfect. And I'm simply going to drag them into any of the images, and it's automatically going to populate the grid, which is fantastic, right? All right, while I wait for all of you to update and put some ice cream names in there, let's talk about scroll groups, right? This is one of the cooler features that has come out in XD 30. So what we're going to do is, before, oh my gosh, we've got some, oh boy, Okay, we've got some names coming in the chat. It's going crazy. I'm just gonna grab a few random ones. They probably won't really match to the actual images, but we've got salted caramel. Salted caramel. There we go. I'm gonna dive into this one. We've got strawberries and cream. I don't know if that's gonna fit actually. So let me scroll back up. Turtle something. Turtle something. Turtle something. I'm not sure if that something was supposed to be there, but I'm gonna run with it. We've got mango love. Ooh, mango love. That sounds delicious. I'm allergic to mango, but if it's in ice cream, it's probably fine. It's probably just flavoring anyway. And we'll go for raspberry. All right, so we've got our ice cream names looking pretty good. Now, in previous versions of Adobe XD, before 30, essentially what you'd have to do is, in order to scroll between these different ice creams, you'd have to create a separate artboard like this. You'd have to move this over here. Then you have to create a drag trigger to kind of go from one artboard to another. And if you have even more going across the artboard, you'd need another artboard, and then you'd have to repeat that process. But now what we can do, I'm gonna undo all of that. I have a repeat grid selected. You can do this with either a repeat grid, or you can do this with a group. You can do it with individual elements, and you're gonna see more of that tomorrow. But I have that selected, and over here to the right within the properties inspector, we've got 3 new options. Not just one, we've got 3. So you can enable a horizontal scroll, a vertical scroll, or in both directions. And again, we're gonna save that one for tomorrow. It's gonna be a fun one. But we're gonna choose horizontal scroll, and it's automatically gonna snap to not only the artboard, but also your layer. But if you wanted to, you can extend this. Think of this like a window into your content. So anything inside of this little window that's defined by the blue bounds is going to be visible at all times, and anything outside of it is not. So in this case, we might want the content to go to the edge of the artboard. So I'm simply going to drag it over, and it snaps nicely into place, right? Now, all I have to do is press the play button at the top, and I have a trackpad on my computer right now, and I simply can scroll. Now, one thing I do want to point out is on the Mac, you can also click and drag. On Windows, if you do not have a trackpad connected to your laptop or your computer, you might have a little bit of trouble scrolling. However, within a week or two, hopefully sooner, there'll be an update that will enable click to drag on Windows for horizontal scrolling as well. So all you Windows users, we're paying attention. The team's working very hard, probably as I speak, working on that update, and that should be out fairly soon. So we can just scroll, just like that. Fancy, right? I think so. Now, let's move on to another one. And before I do that, maybe I want to make my life a little bit easier. And we're gonna get more into stacks as the week goes on, but I might want to just group all these elements, Command and Control G, and I'm gonna just call this, I don't know, content. And we've got our stack option over here to the right. And when I turn that on, it's gonna automatically determine the orientation of the content inside of this group. In this case, it correctly determined that it goes top to bottom, right? Or vertical. And that will obviously allow me to swap these if I wanted to, but I can also make additional elements. So if I want to do something like this, maybe I wanted to start adding some headers, and this might be cones. And I'm just going to do that, right? And again, as I added that additional text layer, everything just kind of moved down really nicely. Maybe I want one more, or maybe I want some categories, for example. So what I can do is I can grab, let's say, an ellipse tool and drag one out just like that. And you're noticing it's automatically moving things around. You can hold down your S key to adjust spacing individually, or you can add in your Shift key and it'll adjust spacing of everything at once, which is nice. So let's go ahead and do something like this, right? We're gonna add a box here, and we'll just, for now, I don't know, make it nice and green. It's an ugly green, but we'll run with that, right? And we might want some additional categories. You know, if you're on Grubhub or Postmates or DoorDash, you've got some categories at the top. And in this case, for ice creams, it might be like lollipops or cones or bowls, or, you know, there's a lot of different types of ice creams. How is it dynamic? Santi is asking. That's the new feature, stacks. And we're gonna get more into that as the week goes on. We're gonna really explore it, but yeah, you can just kind of move things around. You can make things bigger, and everything kind of moves around with it, which is super cool. Let me undo this. And I'm going to create a repeat grid. Actually, you know what? What I'm gonna do, we're going to get some delicious ice creams in here. Let me go back to Finder for a second. And I'm going to grab this image right here. This is an Adobe Illustrator file that I grabbed from Adobe stock. And I can just go ahead and open it directly into Adobe XD. And it comes over with all of its vector paths, all of its everything. So I can just dive in here and just grab some of these ice creams if I wanted to. I don't need the background layer. I can just dive in, grab some of these elements, right? Copy them and pop it. Whoops. I'm gonna make sure to group this. Paste. Whoa, that's a large ice cream. But you notice that even though when I added this ice cream, it still pushed some of the content down, which is doing exactly what it should be doing, right? And look at that. Isn't that cool? It just saves you so much time. You don't have to manually resize things anymore. As you add items, it just does it, which is fantastic. So I'll pop that one there. Maybe I'll change the background color to something a little bit more appropriate for that particular ice cream. A nice purple looks pretty good. Look at that. Musab is saying, don't be sad, have an ice cream. I like that. All right, so what we're able to do now is we can create a repeat grid. So if I'm in my layers panel, I can go ahead and select all this information, right? And repeat grid and drag it out. Now, here's what you may run into. Because we want to really customize this particular element, if we were to start going in here and making some changes, right? You're noticing it updates across the entire repeat grid, and that's by design. That's what a repeat grid is supposed to do. However, what we're able to do is we can go ahead and select, let me actually undo this, and I'm going to select everything that makes up this ice cream. I'm going to group that so we can kind of see what's going on. Ice cream, whoops, ice cream, cream, there we go, spelling is hard. And I'm going to convert both of these elements into a single component. And what that will allow me to do is make overrides. So if I want to dive in here, change it to this color, maybe I want to change it to that green again, I can very easily do that. And if I wanted another ice cream, like this delicious looking watermelon thing, and looks like the seeds are in a different group, but that's okay. I can just simply dive in there and grab it. Looks like I'm grabbing some other seeds too. This Illustrator file isn't super well organized, but that's okay. I'm simply gonna just copy this, and inside of here, instead of that ice cream, I can simply paste that, right? And obviously it's very large, and responsive resize is on. There we go. So now we have, and all of this is done inside of a component, so I'm basically overriding all that information. And I can just delete that if I wanted to, right? So now we have one more ice cream. And let's do another one. Let's say this one over here looks pretty good. I'm gonna copy all these elements, and I might want to dive into this component here, paste it. Way too large, but I'm gonna shrink it down. There we go. Is this making you hungry? It's making me hungry. And I'll change the background. Just like that. All right, now I only have about a minute and a half left, so I'm not gonna spend too much time working on this particular element, but just like the element below it, I can grab this repeat grid, turn on horizontal scrolling. That way, when I'm previewing, I can scroll this element here, I can scroll this one, right? Independent of each other. And in previous versions, doing something like this would be very difficult, if not impossible. But the last thing I want to do, let me just change the background layer to a darker color just so we can see it, is show you how you can also have vertical scrolling as well. So if I had, let's say, a few different, so I can go ahead and grab this, duplicate, and because I have stacks enabled, everything just works really nicely, right? Maybe I'll want one more going down the artboard. Now, of course, I might want to also include some sort of a mask to hide some of these elements because I do have those rounded corners. However, what you can do is you can just select this entire group, turn on vertical scrolling. If you're not too concerned about the rounded corners, pull in these edges and these handles, and now you can not only scroll horizontally through these different galleries, you can also scroll vertically down the artboard, just like that, right? So someone's asking, horizontal scroll doesn't work for Microsoft. I believe he's referring to Windows. As I mentioned earlier, that fix is coming within the week or two, hopefully a little bit sooner. Click to drag feature will be available, so anyone on Windows who does not have a trackpad will be able to participate and use these amazing features, right? And of course you can grab, let's say, this rectangle, and I can actually use that as a mask. So I can mask with shape, right? That way, if I'm scrolling across, you're noticing it doesn't get cut off, or it does get cut off, which is exactly what you want by those rounded rectangles. So, scroll groups in Adobe XD. We also explored a little bit of masks. Again, I would encourage you to use your imagination. If you don't like ice cream, do something else. Maybe a whole application on hot dogs. I don't know, that'd be weird probably. But that's gonna wrap it up for me for today. Definitely stick around in just a few minutes. We've got Alice Lee coming up with Doodle Therapy. Always a fantastic stream. I will be back tomorrow. We're gonna explore more of scroll groups going in both directions, which is gonna be really fun. So stick around and I will see you all next time.